I'm going to cover a slot, and thank you to Diana for that brilliant introduction. It's been a privilege working with somebody like Diana. I've been very fortunate. I know we're not supposed to believe in luck, but I have been very lucky in that I get to work with some absolutely brilliant people in Forever. And so it's a joy to do what I do, and I love helping people get over those initial stumbling blocks, the fear. And I always identify with a new person when I see that they are afraid to take that first step because they don't know the right words to use. And I think if we can develop our coaching skills so we can help somebody who joins the business who's obviously got goals, who's obviously got desires, who has a dream of what this business could give them, if we can help them to overcome these initial stumbling blocks, then we can help them to change their life. And for me, this is the central part of the whole process, is giving somebody some words that they can imagine using. So that's all we're doing. In the slot that we're going to deliver now, I don't want you to think that this is a script that you have to use with every single person. I'm going to give you some words which you can construct together as scripts, but it's more about taking note of the person that we are talking to. And we need to get our new person imagining. So in this slot, I want to share with you, is that inside or outside? It's inside. It sounds like there's a thunderstorm going on outside, doesn't it? So I hope it's not me. I hope this isn't my moment for the bolt of lightning to come down. Because I have been working on it for most of my life, I can promise you. So what we're going to do is share with you some ideas that you can, if you're brand new, you can leave this arena and you can start putting into action straight away. You can actually start spreading the word. Because we've heard a lot about getting your message in front of people. And I want to share with you on how you can get your message in front of people. But for those of us who've been in the business a while, maybe you've sponsored your first person, maybe you don't want to let them down, then I want to give you some words that you can take away to help coach them so they feel confident talking to their person. I think I've got a zapper over here. That's the technical word, I'm sure, for the next slide. So in your First Steps to Manager manual, there's this page. And there's quite a lot of notes on there. And I want to give you some idea of how to use this in a coaching session with your person. First of all, I think it's important for us to understand what the purpose of making contact is. It is not to convince somebody that they need to join Forever. It's not somehow to mystify somebody so they automatically, hypnotically join Forever. It is about identifying some people who want some changes in their life and triggering some curiosity because they want to find out about something that might deliver those changes. The simple fact is that at any one moment in life, most people aren't going to be interested in making changes. They might not be happy with their life, but they're just so stuffed with things, they're not open to looking. And it's important to be able to identify those people from those people who are open to looking. And we're going to identify them by using some simple words, see if we can trigger some curiosity. We know we've triggered curiosity when they ask us some questions, and so we can follow through, taking them through the pipeline of information. You heard on the pipeline slot a little earlier, the cycle is about doing the list, making initial contact, having a one-to-one with somebody or sending them some video links, and then inviting to a business presentation, then sitting down and planning with them. That's the process. So all we're doing when we're making contact with somebody is triggering enough curiosity So they want to go to the next stage, which would be to look at the videos or sit down and have a one-to-one. It's going to be a very brief contact. We are not trying to present the business to people. All we're doing is sowing seeds so that the curious people will identify themselves to us. Remember that if we come across too strong, if we start presenting to people, and you know if you're presenting to somebody when the thing that you're talking most about is forever living or aloe vera or network marketing, if you're talking about those things which lie outside of the person you're talking to, then they will feel they're being sold to. And I don't know about you, but when I feel I'm being sold to, my answer is no. I don't even know what it is I'm saying no to. I just don't like the feeling of being sold to. And I think most people are like that. We have to, when we make the first approach, talk about what could be in it for them, because that is the most important thing that you take away from this session. The knowledge that a person will only join because they have seen something in this for themselves. All we are doing is helping to open their minds to consider some information about the business so they can then make the judgment that there could be something in this for themselves, just like we all have, just like countless of tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people all around the world have decided there is something in this forever business model for themselves. All we're looking for is to identify them. So, there are many, many ways you can make this initial contact. You can use Facebook Messenger, you can text people, you can use cards to trigger a conversation. You can develop referrals, you could do local advertising, all sorts of things that you can do. But when somebody is just starting, we need to teach them how to network. And networking is about getting a message comfortably in front of the people they already have some connection with. Why do we do that? Because it is the quickest way to get people in their pipeline. So they've already done a list, a good list, and that is an important skill, helping somebody to develop their list. And we're going to take people off that list, the names of people off that list, and we're going to profile them. And profiling, in essence, is about making a judgment between you and the person you're working with, about what might be in it for this person. So we want to make an initial contact, and we're going to share with you 3 methods of getting that initial message in front of people. We're going to talk about using the telephone or face-to-face, same kind of thing. But we're also going to talk about using social media, how best to use Facebook, and how to use text messaging to trigger an appropriate conversation. First of all, I'm going to talk about making a phone call. I believe it's still the most important way. Here's why. When you send a text-based message, whether it's through Facebook or SMS, there is no tone of voice. And trust is developed through people making an unconscious judgment about our motivation. And we make that unconscious judgment through hearing somebody's tone of voice. It's very easy to misinterpret somebody's intention using a text-based communication. Have you ever received an email or a Facebook message or a text, usually late at night, maybe when you've had a glass of wine, that infuriated you and you reacted to in quite an aggressive way, only to discover some way down the line that that's not what they meant to say in the first place? That's because it's really easy to misinterpret, because when they wrote it, they heard a particular tone of voice. When you read it, you heard a completely different tone of voice. So we need to be careful about using these methods of initial conversation. And I think that learning how to speak to somebody on the phone is a very valuable tool. Also, through learning how to speak to somebody on the phone, we can get a sense of how they are reacting to our approach, which means that we can then hone and tweak the words that we're using, the way that we're approaching somebody, because we're getting immediate feedback. And I think this is important, especially when we are just learning how to do the business. So in your first steps to manager manual, it talks about a variety of ways that we can make contact with somebody. And I think the best way, if you know somebody's hot button, is to use a direct approach about that hot button. If you know somebody has always wanted to take their kids to Disneyland, if you know somebody has always wanted to drive a Porsche, if you know somebody desperately wants to give up work, if you know somebody wants to retire, and you know it because they've had that conversation with you, you know them well enough for them to have had that conversation with you, then that hot button is the best way to make the approach. Because it is immediately connecting to what could be in it for them. And it's a very easy approach to make. Now, it may be that there's only half a dozen people in the world that you can actually use this approach with. But for those half dozen people, this is the best approach. And it's important when you're working with somebody new to discover who these people are that your new distributor, your new forever business owner knows their hot button. So here's how the conversation would go. I always do this, and it's just to remind myself that I'm on the phone, really. I don't know why I do that, because you know it's a phone. I hope you like the prop, by the way. No expense spent on props. You've spotted that. Phones were that size when I first started. And you used to have to go to the chiropractors periodically. In fact, that's how chiropractors became so popular, because of the introduction of mobile phones, because you used to have to carry them about on your back in the early days. I didn't have a mobile phone, by the way, when I first joined Forever. When I first joined Forever 20 years ago, there was no internet, definitely no Facebook, and most people didn't have mobile phones. And I got my mobile phone because I sat in my very first planning meeting with Jane Leach, and she said, "What's your mobile phone number?" And I said, "I haven't got one." And she said, "Well, how am I going to contact you when I've got some important idea to help you with a business?" And I thought, good point, I'll get myself a mobile phone. And I got myself a mobile phone, and it took about 5 years before Jane ever rang me on it. But still, I had a mobile phone. So, you know, all these technologies are new technologies for many people, but even the technologies that many people now take for granted were new sometimes. We have always lived in changing times. So we need to embrace new ways of communication. The world changes around us, and that's why we now are using Facebook and text messaging and WhatsApp messaging. But what doesn't change is people. People are motivated by the same things they were motivated by 20 years ago, 200 years ago, 2,000 years ago. So although times change and methods of communication change, the way we communicate with people, finding out what they want and showing them how to get it, that's the art that we need to develop. So the telephone conversation would go something like, you know when you said you wanted to take the kids to Disneyland, or you know when you said you wanted to drive a 911, or you know when you said you loved the new Evoque and you wanted to buy one. You have to know that's what they want. You can't be guessing it. They have to have said it at some time. So you know when you said that and they sort of partially engage, yeah, you need to then ask a question, a very important question. Did you mean it? And that's because we want them to remember not just saying they wanted it, but we want them to remember that they wanted it. We want to generate that feeling of desire in them. And we do that by then moving that information from one part of their brain into another. And we get them to move the information unconsciously from one part of the brain into another by saying, did you mean it? So when they say, yeah, it's simple. We say, I think I've found a way for you to get it. What we need to do is get together over a cup of coffee so I can show you what it's all about, or let me send you a couple of online videos, take a look, and then we can have another chat about it. How does that sound? It's the simplest approach in the world. So we need to identify with our new person the half dozen, maybe 20 people that you can make a hot button approach with, and that needs to be the first approach. If you've got a phone number, then we do it by phone. Typically, with this approach, they would have a phone number because they know somebody pretty well. The next, and this will be in the first steps to manager training, the next way we're going to learn how to have a conversation with somebody so that we can trigger curiosity, because remember, that's all we're trying to do, is to use our story. And we're going to use our story not to talk about ourselves, but to trigger some hot buttons in them, possible hot buttons. So this is an example script. Obviously, it's not my script because I don't run my own childcare business. But if this were you, you give a bit of background. I run my own childcare business, very successful, income's good. However, the hours are very long, very stressful, a lot of paperwork, and I've been looking for a better way. So through a friend, I came across this company that has given me an opportunity to have a business within a business. I like that phrase. It's given me time, flexibility. I choose my own hours, choose my own level of income, even choose from where I work from. And then we go on to how I feel about the solution that it offers. So it's the challenge, so it's a bit of background, the challenge, what the solution is, the forever solution, and then how I feel about that. So I'm so excited about what I found, first time in many years, feel my future secure, I can finally achieve all I want in life. Looking for a few people who want the same kind of things as I do. I don't know if it's for you, obviously only you can decide that. Let me send you a couple of videos, or let's get together over a cup of coffee and I can show you what it's about. So these are very simple ways of making that initial contact. And we need to be able to teach our person. Now, every first steps to manager training that you go to, there will be somebody on stage who has a different experience from me. And they will be sharing with you their best little script. So I would encourage you to go along to as many first steps to manager trainings as you can. Get in front of as many leaders as you can. So you can discover little nuggets, little phrases that they use, that you feel comfortable using, that you can then apply to your own business. I'm now going to bring on somebody who I'm delighted to say is one of the leaders in my own team, who's building a phenomenal business herself. And she has done a lot of trainings for us in our team about using social media, how to make this first initial approach using Facebook. And I'm going to bring her on to share a little bit about that with you. So please give a massive welcome to Charlotte Pridmore.
First of all, before I start, I'd just like to wave to block 8, because my comfort zone is sat up there. But I'm very happy to be here. Thanks. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Charlotte Pridmore. You've just heard that. My background before I started for Forever was I was a hairdresser and makeup artist. But before that, I spent 10 years in London doing loads of different things. I moved there when I was 19 to seek my fortune. Basically, I just ended up going to a party in 1997, and I came back in 2009. And I came back with a 6-month-old baby. I was back at home, 30, on benefits, living with my mum and dad, which definitely wasn't where I expected to be when I was 30. So I met my now husband. I retrained as a hairdresser, went back to college, sweeping up hair and making tea for people. And I absolutely loved it, because I'd gone from working some corporate jobs to making people feel good about themselves and chatting all day, which I'm quite good at. But I don't know if there's any hairdressers in the room, but there's certainly no money in hairdressing. And we were skint, really skint. In fact, I joked yesterday that I can remember when we were coppering up for a block of cheese. And it was about that time where I got a card through the door. So if those of you that go carding and you think it's a bit of a thankless task, then keep going, because I came from a card. And attached to that card, it said, would you like to earn between £200 and £2,000 a month or more, flexibly around what you're already doing? And I thought, yes, I do. So long story short, got involved in Forever, did absolutely very little for the first year. I got to supervise in 3 months, which back then was quite quickly, but then I sat there thinking, this is well easy. I'm really good at this. So I just didn't really do anything because I didn't believe that I could. I didn't believe that all those things, all those people that were stood on that stage, I thought they were different to me. I thought that they had something that I didn't. But I just got to it. I went to a QLS day the following year, and that completely changed my life. And from then, it has completely changed my life. My son's privately educated. I drive a beautiful car. My gorgeous husband got made redundant 6-7 months ago, and it didn't matter because I'd got everything covered. So that's what it's done for me. So, you know, if you're in the room and you're not there, thank you. So if you're not there yet, then just keep going. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you about is making that first contact on social media. Now, social media is an incredible tool, and we all know that, and we all use it. Some of us use it better than others. I was awful at it when I started, and that's a really important point. You are going to get it wrong if you're brand new in the room, but listen to your leaders, listen to your managers, and take the advice and watch some training and make sure you're saying sort of the right thing, because it does make such a difference. So, I want to ask you a question before I go into this. Do you care about people? Do you actually care that the person on the end of that message is a person with needs and wants, problems, desires, all those things that we all share as human beings? Do you care about that? Because what I find, and I've done it myself, so I'm not saying anything, I'm not saying I'm perfect. You know, a couple years ago, where you're just messaging for the sake of it. You're messaging 10 people to tick a box, to say, well, I've done my 10 contacts today, so I'm doing the business. But you've got to ask yourself questions about that person, about that person's life. So Andy was talking about profiling. So how do I know that person? Who are they? How were they when I last spoke to them? Were they annoyed? Were they fed up of their job? Were they really, really happy? How were they? What kind of person are they? Is their profile full of motivational, exciting, happy things, or are they constantly moaning and always posting something political? Because a person's Facebook profile tells you a lot about them. How could this business affect their life? How could it help? Because some people don't need our help. Some people don't, some people do. A lot of people do, they just don't know it yet. So the message, you've got to keep it brief, keep it simple, keep it intriguing. I'm going to give you some examples in a minute of some messages. Know your objective. This is something that was massive for me. Your objective is not to recruit these people in the message. That is not your job. Your job is to share the opportunity. And when that clicked for me, it made such a difference because it took the fear out of it. Suddenly I wasn't frightened of messaging that person because I'm not asking them to join my team. I'm not asking them, I'm not trying to recruit them. I'm just saying, look, I've got some information for you. Would you like to have a look? So take the fear out of it by just knowing that all your job is to do is to share information with them. The next thing, and this obviously relates a lot to what Andy was saying, is to move that onto a phone call or a meet. And he actually stole what I was going to say. Because actually, when you have a phone call with somebody, they, like Andy said, they hear your tone of voice. They hear how you feel. They hear your conviction. If you're hiding behind Facebook, ask yourself why. Is it because you don't really believe in what you're saying, so it's easier to say it on a message than it is face-to-face? And if that's the case, then get yourself to every event. Start watching training. Find people that motivate you and listen to how they talk. Because at the end of the day, this business is how you make somebody else feel. How do you make them feel when you talk to them about this business? Do you have doubt? Because if you do, that will come through, and that comes through on a message as well. So use that initial message to gain some interest, to spark a fire. And then once you've got that message, I'd love to have a chat with you, because then they will hear you. They will get an essence of who you are, and you get an essence of who they are. And then you start to build that relationship. It builds genuine excitement. You know, when I talk to people about this business now, I'm excited. I don't turn into a lunatic, but I'm excited, you know, so just up it a little bit. Just say, God, I'm really excited to be talking to you today. God, imagine if I can change your life. Because that is what you have. You know, I always say, if Sue Hickman's my upline and Christina War, if they hadn't have walked into my life and pushed that card through my door, I wouldn't be standing here now. And this has been one of my goals for a long time, so thank you, universe. Thanks. So this is the opportunity for you to get to know your why. My first question to people is, tell me what it was about my message that made you interested. And then shut up and let them talk. Ask them questions. You saw Jane do that incredible planning yesterday. What was the thing she did most? Ask questions. You know, that is what you're here for. You're here to find out why this business is right for them, and then matching the business opportunity to them. Because if you start banging on about money and how it's changed, you know, because the reason you got involved was financial, theirs might be time. So they're listening to you going, because you're rabbiting on, I've done it. So you get there and they're like, well, that's not what I'm interested in, and they've lost interest. So find out what their why is, because it will have a far greater impact on the conversation and their life and your life if you take some time to care about that other person and what they want from this business. Okay, so some of us are build natural rapport. Some of us are better at that, but it's a skill. You know, some of us have it more than others, but it's a skill to build rapport with people, and you build rapport by having empathy, by being interested, by giving them eye contact, by, you know, if they're a tactile person, be tactile back. For some people that feels weird. I'm not saying like go around hugging everybody like me, but I had to learn to rein that in as well. You've got to be able to build rapport by matching somebody's, or, you know, matching somebody's being. You know, if they're a very tactile person, give that back. If they're not, then don't. You know, it's a skill to learn, and it's, you know, everything we do is learnable. You've got to show more interest in that person than in yourself. This isn't about you. And this is another thing, you know, once I realized that, it's not about me. It's not about my goals. It's not about what I want from this meeting. It's about what I can do for you. And the minute you care more for that person than you care for yourself, then everything changes. And it's the same when you've got team. The minute you care about that team member before you care about yourself, then that team member becomes loyal. Because they know that you've got their best interests at heart. And Zoe said this earlier. By the way, it's been lovely to share the stage today with two of my best forever friends. And girls, you're amazing. You know, become an amazing storyteller and share relevant stories. You know, if they're a mum and you're a mum, share a story. I know, because empathy, being on their side of the table, is what will build rapport with them and make them feel that they're just like you. Okay, don't. Don't send long generic messages. I mean, we all know this, don't we? But people still do it. I got one the other day, actually, from somebody in another network marketing company. And how does it make you feel if you receive something like that? It's boring. It's boring to do. You know, if you're just sending the long generic messages, copy paste, which is another don't, then it takes the fun out of this. This is a joyful business. This is an amazing business to be able to give somebody the opportunity to completely change their life. And if you're just copy and pasting, where's the fun in that? Don't try to be somebody else, be you. You know, when we talk about scripts, and obviously I use Andy's methods all the time, and it's fantastic, but I say it in the way I would say it. There's certain words I wouldn't use that he uses. So I just say, so be yourself. Don't try to be something you're not. Because also the people in your life who know you, if you suddenly turn into a completely different person, it's not genuine and authentic. And don't add people to social media who you don't know. You have to have some form of connection. It might be a very, you know, friend of a friend, that's absolutely fine, but you have that person in common. So when you make the connection, you say, hi, we don't know each other very well, but we've got so-and-so in common. Or you might have been at a similar event, or, you know, or been to a party they've been to, or you might be commenting on the same thread as them in a conversation. Don't be overly familiar. I skipped one, sorry. Don't be over familiar with people you don't know. Don't message somebody and say, oh my God, I've got this amazing opportunity, I think you'd be incredible at it. You don't know them. They might be awful. And they're like, well, you don't know me. So, it's always got to be genuine. So what to say? Okay, these are a couple of examples. So, hi Jessica, how are you? The girls are so beautiful but growing up so quickly. I couldn't help but notice your post about wanting to go away, but how expensive it can be for the whole family. I just wanted to send you a message about the business I'm involved with. You can work it from home, around full-time work and the girls. It's allowed us to build the most incredible lifestyle around Miley, and with added bonuses of the company paying for us to travel for free twice a year to incredible destinations around the world. It might not be for you, but I definitely think it's worth looking at. A little look about it, and we could, what to offer you guys, sorry. Reading in front of loads of people is really weird. So that's, it's chatty, it's about them. You've actually been interested in what they're doing, you've looked at their post. It's about them, it's not just a generic, I've got some information for you, would you like to look at it? Here's another one, I'll try not to mess this one up. Hi Joe, I hope you and the family are well. The wedding pictures look amazing, you're so lucky with the weather. I have an opportunity I think you might be interested in. It might not be for you personally, but it's perfect to work around your corporate career and the children. Would you be open to taking a look at some information about it? That's a really good line. Would you be open to looking at some information? Because sort of what that says to somebody is, are you open-minded? And of course everyone says, yeah, I'm really open-minded. So they'll respond well to that. Are you open to looking at some information? Okay, I think, Oh, no, it's me. Sorry, I thought I'd done. Okay, so using social media to maintain excitement. So it's a really good idea to pick themes for your Facebook page. So family time, gym, business, social life. When I first started involved in Forever, and we first started using Facebook, because when I started in Forever in 2011, we were told not to use Facebook. And then, people like Claire Spencer started using it to massive effect. And then everybody started, and we were getting fantastic results from that, and that was brilliant. And it was new, and everyone was like, oh, it's this Forever thing. It's fantastic. But nowadays, obviously, we've got lots of people in Forever. People use social media all the time, so it's important to keep your Forever business posts to a minimum. Have balance on your Facebook page. So you've got to maintain that and show a lifestyle that you're interested in, but don't make it too Forever heavy, because otherwise people just switch off from that. The reason Facebook works so well is because people like to be nosy. But that doesn't mean that they want to be nosy and then constantly see business post after business post after business post. So have some lifestyle in there, time with your kids, show your life in its true sense. And if you're going to the gym at 11 o'clock on a Friday, brilliant, because there's other people who want to go to the gym at 11 o'clock on Friday but can't. But have balance in your Facebook page. Don't make it too Forever heavy. Be consistent with your posts on social media. Make them different. Put images, put videos. People are visual. They like, if you put in big, long posts all the time, people are going to get, oh, it's just another long post, and they won't even read it, never mind what the content is. It might be the best post in the world, but if you're constantly just putting messages on there that are text-based, so have things that are interesting, colorful, bright, funny. If you find a funny video, share it, because people like that, and it brings people to your page. Tell your story, show your lifestyle, and let people see your gradual change. Don't get involved in Forever and then suddenly go to a Porsche garage and get a photograph taken it saying, just ordering my Porsche. Because it's not true. You've got to be real, it's got to be your life. People in your life know your life. So if you're suddenly being not real on Facebook, then they're saying, what are you doing that for? And then they'll make an assumption about what your business is about when that's not true. Interact. I think this is really, really important. I think what happens a lot of the time is people message people and they get a vague interest, and then that vague interest sort of tittles off. Tittle, is that even a word? It tittles off. I'm going to say it again because I like it. And then they just leave them. It's like, well, they're not interested, so I don't care anymore about that people. So it comes back to that question, do you care about other people? If people have shown an interest in your business, even a slight spark of interest, stay in touch. The girl I'm seeing next week, I've been talking to for 8 months. I gave her a card in Next, that was it. We've been talking for 8 months. She just opened a Nando's, Emma. She just opened a Nando's in Mansfield. She's been absolutely flat out. She's not responded to my last 4 messages, just checking in, just seeing how it's going. But then on the 5th one, she said, I'm so sorry, I've just been so busy. I was like, it's all right, I just wanted to know how work was going. Can I come in for a free Nando's? There's a running theme of chicken. So, I've built a relationship with her. We met once, I gave her a card. We've laughed, we've joked. I genuinely care how her day's going. But care about other people. I know she appreciates that. And keeping track. This is something I was awful at until very recently, actually. But using the first steps to manage a booklet, use your tracking sheets. Write down every single person that you have contacted. Write down when you're going to follow them up. Either use a 1 to 31 if you want to use that. I use a 7-day plan folder personally. So I track my activity every 7 days, and then I have a pipeline sheet that everyone goes onto that I've sent information to, and only people that I've sent information to go on my pipeline. Because then you'll start to see your ratios. You'll start to see how many people you need to speak to in order to recruit X amount of people, however many people you want to recruit. Because the fortune is in the follow-up. Imagine if I'd just given up on the Nando's girl. She will join the business, but it's going to take time because it had to be the right time for her. You will have, and I know I've let go of so many people because I didn't follow up well enough. Also, following up and having a working activity tracker and a working pipeline means that you can be assertive with your contacts when you go and you get back to them. So look, I'm just checking in with you. I said I'd follow you up in 3 months. I'm just seeing if now's the right time to look at the information. For a start, they know you're about to contact them because you said you would, and you're also doing what you said you were going to do, which is important. If you say, I'll contact you in 3 months and they never hear from you again, what happens when they meet somebody next week at a soft play and they offer them the business? And then that's the right time. Are they going to join you? No, because you didn't bother to follow up. Okay, so I think I'm done. I just want to say, while I've got the opportunity, because they may never ask me again, thank you to my beautiful husband, my amazing team, and all my forever family. Thank you very much.
I was surprised that was her first success day. She looks so natural, doesn't she, on stage? I hope you found that interesting. I think she's a brilliant trainer. Give her another round of applause. So we've given you a few ideas there on how to contact people when you speak to them face-to-face, how you may contact people using the phone, a few ideas for using Facebook. So it's not about a specific way. It's not about a copy and paste, use a specific script. It's about, as Charlotte said, being mindful of the person that you are talking to, caring about what could be in it for them. And the whole process is about triggering some curiosity. Now, when I first started, this was the part of the process that I used to dread, when they asked me a question. In fact, it often stopped me from making a contact in the first place because I was worried that I wouldn't be able to handle a question that I was being asked, which is stupid in a networking business. So it's important to recognize what questions are about. And when your prospect asks a question, it tells you one massively important thing. And that is that they are curious. You have triggered, by your initial approach, their curiosity. And that was the objective. If they don't ask any questions, it tells you that they're indifferent to what you're doing. It tells you they're one of the 9 out of 10 people who's just so stuffed with their life at the moment that they're not really interested in finding out more. But the one person in 9 in 10 that you're looking for is the one who in whom you do trigger some curiosity. And you know that because they ask a question. And they can ask loads of different questions. The one, though, that they ask the most, if you've made the kind of approach that we've shared with you now, the one that they ask the most is, what is it? Or what's the company called? Or, some variation on that. And I have changed over the years in the way that I have responded and handled this question. And what I'm going to share with you now is how I now handle this question. It's a really simple way of handling it. It's stress-free, it's comfortable, it's open, and it leads to the development of trust and the progression of your prospect through pipeline. So when they first, and there are some bullet points of how to handle this in the First Steps to Manager manual. They may ask, is it selling? Is it a pyramid scheme? Is it one of those things? They're all variants on the what is it question. I handle it all in the same way these days. So when they say what is it, or whatever question they ask me, I simply, and I would jot this down because it's really valuable. I respond with a question. It's important to respond with a question because at this stage I've triggered their curiosity, and if I start talking too much about forever, then it could feel to them that I've slipped into presentation mode. It could feel to them that I've started selling to them. And I could actually trigger a no by just coming on too strong at this stage. So I don't start giving a presentation, I ask a question. I ask a question not really because I want to know the answer. I ask a question because I want it to feel like we're having a conversation. And the question I ask is a very simple one. The company's called Forever. Have you heard of them? Now, I know that grammatically it should be, have you heard of it? But I don't say that. I say, have you heard of them? And you get one of two responses. Most people, I would say 8 out of 10 people still today say, no, never heard of them. And that's fine. If they haven't heard of the company, then I'm going to explain a little bit about the company. 2 out of 10 people say, when you say, have you heard of them? They say, yeah, I have. Now, this is an important thing to handle right, because some people will have heard a lot, some people will have heard a lot less. So we need to find out how much they know. And do you know the best way to find out how much they know is to ask another question. Tell me, how much do you know about the company? Half the people who said yes, they'd heard about it, half the people say, I don't know, I've just heard about them. I don't know if you've had that response, but it's quite a common response these days, and that tells you something very important. It tells you that actually the person you're talking to has not heard of Forever, but they thought that the answer you wanted was that they had. So they are behaving in such a way as to give you the answer you're looking for, because they want to please you. And that tells you that they are very interested in what you've got to say. So that tells you a lot about the background psychology. You need to just chalk that up. It's very important if they have said yes, they've heard of it, and you discover actually they haven't heard of it, you don't handle that by saying, liar, liar, pants on fire, because that is not a way of moving the conversation forward. We've got to pretend that they have heard about it somewhere. Of course, 1 out of 10 people, maybe they're a customer, or maybe they had a friend at work who does it, or used to do it, increasingly common, or they used to be a customer, but the person they used to buy products of drifted out of the business and stopped doing it, or, I don't know, one of a million things. I listen to what they have to say, but actually it's not going to influence what I say next. If they've heard of it, fine. If they haven't heard of it, that's just fine. What I'm going to say next is exactly the same. Now, if they've heard of it, or they've said they've heard of it, I will just use a little phrase and say, well, as you know, as you already know. But if they haven't heard of it, I'm just missed that bit out. So as you already know, Forever is quite a remarkable company, and I would jot this down. I find this really, really valuable. Forever's quite a remarkable company in that they don't have employees, they have partners, which means that you can choose your own hours, you can choose to work from wherever you like, so many people choose to work from home, and you can even set your own level of income. Which is why a lot of people, and then we are going to describe the kind of profile of the person that we're talking to, find it an attractive proposition. Obviously, I can't go into a lot of detail at the moment, and then whether you're sending the videos or you're sitting down with somebody, I'll say it again, don't worry. Yeah, don't worry. Whether you're sitting down with somebody, then you progress them to the next stage in the pipeline. So I'll just, for those who are hard of writing, I'll just say it again. So the company's called Forever. Had you heard of them? Yes, no, maybe. Well, as you know, they're a remarkable company in that they don't have employees, they have partners, which means that you can choose your own hours. You can choose from wherever you work. So a lot of people join the business so they can work from home. You can even choose your own level of income. Obviously, I can't go into too much detail at the moment. But what I'd like to do is send you some videos or get together with over a cup of coffee, spend 20 minutes showing you what it's all about. That way we have shared a little bit about the information, a little bit of information about the company, but we haven't gone into presentation mode. The most important thing we avoid in this initial conversation is that we start to do presentation. If you do slip into presentation, and you know you've slipped into presentation if you say one of a number of things. If you find yourself saying network marketing, you're doing a presentation. If you find yourself saying aloe vera, you've slipped into a presentation. If you find yourself saying Rex Morn, you've slipped into a presentation. And I know that we will all have done that at some stage. And it's not that we don't want to tell people all of this information. We do want to tell them it. What we don't want is them to feel at this moment that we are trying to sell them, because that will make them shut down even if they actually want to find out more. I'll give you an example. You know, we go down any high street in the country at the moment, there are people in tabards trying to sign us up for direct debits for charities. These are probably charities that I support. All good, legitimate charities. So I think the end result is very laudable. I'm also a networker, so my job is to talk to people who want to talk to me. And yet, in this unique situation, when I see a guy in a tabard with a clipboard, I suddenly quicken my pace, avoid eye contact, and suddenly find I've got something really important to do. Sorry, I haven't got time. Have you found yourself doing that? What does that tell us? It's not about the charity. It's about the way we are being approached. And we need to be very mindful that we do not trigger this tabard response by slipping into premature presentation mode. Do not suffer from premature presentation. So in the book, there are a few bullet points which are actually features about the company. Personally, I think when we talk about the company, it's best to talk about the benefits that the company delivers to the person we're talking to. You know, these three benefits. Choose your own hours, work from wherever you like, set your own level of income. If you can drop those in, you're likely to hit a hot button at some stage. So, coaching your new person to make contact with the people in their network is probably the most critical part of the whole process. They will have inhibitions. They will be concerned. Our job as a coach is to help them to overcome these inhibitions as soon as possible. Because once they start talking to people, they will know that they can do it. And they will get people in their pipeline, they'll get people in their business. Our job is to help to give them that nudge, give them the confidence, give them the words which will give them the confidence so that they can actually get started. Because if they get started, they'll start to build a team. If they start to build a team, their business will grow, they'll move through the marketing plan, and you too will move through the marketing plan. I hope you found that helpful. It's been a delight for Charlotte and myself to share this with you. It's a great venue. I do hope we're back here again. Thank you very much for your kind attention. See you again soon.